Before I start, I want to express anxiety. Let me get that out of the way first. With as many accomplished spiritual speakers as we have available, I feel honored to be here today. And the last time I did this was in December of 2004, so I'm a little nervous standing in front of you today, so forgive me for that. And I want to also let you know this is version 10 of this talk because I tend to overthink things. And so if I get mixed up to my versions, just love me, and we'll take it from there, okay? All right. Why am I here? Hi. My name is Jerry Denton, and I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Jerry. You know, I say that at meetings several times a week, even though I haven't had a drink for many, many years. It isn't everything, it doesn't define me, but the 12-step program, along with unity principles, have been a foundation for my spiritual experience, my growth. So the title of this talk is, why am I here? You know, it seems like a simple enough question. Why am I here? Maybe to do God's work because God has a plan for me. Well, you know, I think we all want to think we have some divine purpose, that we have a reason to be here. I don't know if that's true or not. There we go. Preordination. Being predetermined, preordained by God, who said there's a plan for everything that ever happens on the earth. Okay, that God has a plan for everything. I don't believe that. I really just don't believe that. I don't believe that there's a supreme being, if you will, that says every ant is going to walk along which tree to go to what leaf. Okay, I don't know that that's true or not, but I just don't see that works for me. So I thought about, what do I believe about me and preordination? I don't believe that when I was born, God had a plan for me. I don't believe that there is some divine path I'm supposed to follow, and that if I get off that path, that God's going to point to me and say, get back on the path. I don't believe that God is sitting there with a clipboard, all right, keeping track of everything I do to make sure that if I make a wrong choice, that I hear about it. Okay? I don't believe that. And you know, too, when things get tough for me, I also don't believe that God is there taking care of me. And you might say, well, that's kind of sad, but the truth is, I really believe that it's up to me to find my way through this human experience with God's help. But it's up to me to find my way through it. I can't give God credit or blame for the decisions I make if I don't talk to God first. You know, I've always thought, and I believe that things are random. I think that just, you know, except for the fact that when I quit drinking, for example, my life got better because I stopped making really stupid decisions, and I only made normal stupid decisions. Okay, well, that's really kind of what that was about for me, was I now became just normally stupid, not really, really stupid. Okay, so I do want to talk about my recovery program just a little bit because I want you to understand, at least from my perspective, how the 12 steps kind of work into a spiritual growth, okay? So let's see. Step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Sounds pretty spiritual. We'll come back to that one. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That sounds like confession. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. That's like atonement. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. If you're familiar with unity, you know that's very similar to our 4th unity principle. And finally, step 12, having had a spiritual awakening. As the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. That's just another way of saying unity principle number 5. So I want to go back to 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Now, I wrestled with this one for a long time because I don't believe in preordination. So if I don't believe that there's someone who has a path for me, how can I turn my life over to that entity and say, lead me through it? So how can I say that I can turn my will and my life over to God if I don't think God's going to do the right thing? So in my belief system, there's a challenge there. It was March 1996. I was at Unity Village in Lee's Summit, Missouri. I was a candidate for seminary. Now, I had spent years and years of study of the Unity principles, of taking and teaching classes. I had learned to reach into myself and get a sense of who I really am. I had really gotten comfortable with my connection to God. And I qualified to go to Lee Summit to try out for seminary. Well, it was going to be a tough one because the challenge was when I went to Lee Summit, they were changing the rules for entry. And you were going to have a 4-year degree to get in. And I'd never gone to college. So this was my only chance. So I went to Unity Village, and I was there, and there was excitement in the air, and there was prayer, and there was laughter, and there was just stuff going on. There were 40 people there, 40 of us, who were invited for interviews and testing. After years of study and preparation, we had 3 days of interviews and tests, of being watched, of fellowship, in order to qualify. And out of the 40 of us, only 20 would be accepted. So now we had 40 people who all felt the calling. We'd all done the work. We'd all prepared. Some people had even moved to Lee Summit because they knew they were going to get in. We all knew we had a calling. We all knew we were supposed to be there. So there was a bit of anticipation, excitement, and anxiety. All right? Well, I was staying on campus on Unity Village, and I had my own room, nice little room. Not as big as this room here, but it had a bed, had a dresser, and it had an overstuffed chair. That chair became very important to me. And in the mornings, I would sit in this chair. It was a little bit bigger than this. Maybe I've gotten bigger since then. And I would meditate and pray. And I remember that first morning, it was dark outside still. I was up before dawn. It was cold, okay? It was cold out there in March. And it was raining slightly. And I was comfortable in the room. It was nice and snug, and I was meditating, and I was feeling just really good about the world. I was there, and I could hear the pitter-patter of rain outside, and in the quiet, I heard it. I heard this voice. I heard this voice like there was someone in that room with me. Wasn't a message that I had to interpret. I heard a voice. And the voice said, "You're in the right place at the right time." Cool, all right. I'm going to be a minister. I'm going to be selected. I'm in the right place at the right time. Okay, look out. So I combed what little hair I had left. I tightened up my tie. And I went out and did the interviews and testing, and I was with my other 39 compatriots, and we talked to our mentors, and we had just a wonderful day, and I was just filled with the excitement and the knowledge that I was in the right place at the right time. And I felt really good about what I was doing. So we went through the day and the evening, and we had a little bit of ceremony at night. I went back to bed that night, and I slept well, knowing that all was well with the world. Well, that next morning, I got up, I got dressed, I sat down in the chair. Now, I had picked up a candle because it was dark the morning before, okay, and I had the candle burning over here and kind of made the shadows dancing on the walls, kind of magic, you know, and I sat there and comfortable, and I was praying and just really being okay with the world. And I don't know if I expected it or not, but that voice came a second day. And it said very clearly, just right there, like someone sitting right next to me, it said, wherever you are, you're doing my work. Now, what do you mean wherever I am? I'm supposed to be right here. I'm supposed to be being selected. I'm supposed to be going into seminary. What do you mean wherever? I'm supposed to be here, not wherever. And so suddenly my thought process was jumbled, okay? And I thought, what's going on here? So I went ahead and combed what little hair I had left again, okay? And I tightened up my tie, and I went out and I spent the day with my other 39 compatriots. We did testing and interviews and with my mentors, and it was all good. But there was something missing, something that didn't quite fit. I wasn't sure what it was. So then we had a ceremony that evening and a big celebration and a lot of fellowship and singing and dancing and just being when you're with 40 people who are all anxious and hungry for following their calling, it's an excitement and an anticipation that you get caught up in. And we all shared that together. Went back to my room. I went to sleep. Got up next morning, got back. I had to wear a suit, okay? So I know none of you ever seen me in a suit. It actually looked pretty good, okay? But so I got my suit on, tightened the tie up, sat down in the chair. I was quiet again. This time I closed my eyes. I didn't see the dancing shadows, but I could smell the candle. And I realized how alive my senses were. I realized how attuned I was in that moment. And that third day, that voice came one last time. I have never heard it again. This was the last time it came to me. It came and it said, "You're not going to be selected." And I said, wow, I'm not going to be selected. And it was strange because it was okay. It's like I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't feeling badly about it. It was just, this is as it is. This is what is right. It wasn't what I expected, but it was what is right. And so that day, I remember thinking to myself as I was going out the door to go to breakfast, I wondered, if I'm not going to be selected, why am I here? Why am I at Unity Village going through all of this if I'm not going to be selected? So I went out and I had breakfast with my other 39 people, and they were talking, and then we weren't going to hear about anything until after lunch. This was the day that we were going to find out whether we were accepted or not. This is the day that we were going to find out if we were going to be catapulted into seminary or go home. Okay, and that was where everyone was at. And I had 39 people that I was hanging out with who were all anticipating, excited, scared, unsettled. I had 39 people that really didn't know what was going to happen in their life, and I knew. I knew for me. And I discovered in that time what ministry really means to me. I sat down with these people. I don't remember what was said. I had no magic words for anything. But I remember sitting down and talking and holding and praying and laughing and joking and sharing tears. And I discovered during that time, for me, ministry is not about standing on a pulpit. It's not really what it's about. It's about being with someone, truly being there, not having anticipation or not having not having an agenda, but to simply be with someone and allow them to find their own strength, their own good. It's not about me sharing the good that I have with someone. That's really ego-driven in my book, because I found out that I can help someone find their own strength. I can help someone be the best them they can be. And I realized for me, that's what ministry is about. Sure enough, I didn't get accepted. And it was okay. I came back to Hawaii, to my church here, to my job here, to my friends, to my life here in Hawaii, which was not a bad consolation prize, believe me. Because I didn't have a 4-year degree, I knew that I wasn't going to be accepted again, so I took classes because I wanted to learn stuff, not because I was trying to get brownie points. All right, so I threw myself back into spiritual studies, but it was for self-enrichment, because my quest for ministry was over, and I was okay with that. It was time for me to do something else. So imagine my surprise, 6 months later, I got a letter from Unity Village, and it said, open it up, "We have changed the rules so you can try again." What they did is there were 6 of us in that class who did not have the 4-year degree that we did really well, but we didn't quite qualify. They were giving the 6 of us an opportunity to go back and reapply. They're giving the 6 of us an opportunity to go back and go through tests and interviews so that we could become part of the seminary. I looked at this and I said, this is amazing. And I realized that I had a calling and that my calling was being answered to. And so I knew that I had to do this. So I went back to Unity Village that March, and I took the tests, and I did the interviews. I met with my mentors. I found out that John Strickland, our minister here, was going to be my ordaining minister when I graduated seminary. So how all of the pieces are falling into place. The world had conspired to make me a minister, whether I wanted to or not, right? Okay? But the world had put all the pieces in place for me. I had a different room, but I had a chair. I had a chair. I sat in a chair, and I didn't hear any voices this time. And as I said, I've never heard the voices again. I don't need to. I know that I can get guidance. I know that my guidance is not coming out of the voices. So it's interesting when the world's. So I went through. Did I mention I went through the process and I got accepted. I got accepted into Unity Seminary. Came back here to Hawaii to put everything in order so I could go. But it's interesting what happens when the world says yes. It's more of a challenge than when the world says no. When the universe says no to you, then you can shrug your shoulders and say, it must be God's will. You know, the answer is no, and you can go on, right? When the answer is yes, I discovered for me that I had to be responsible for my own choices. I had to determine what was right for me to do. And so I made a choice. I made a choice after everything that was going on, even though they changed the rules for me, even though John was my ordaining minister, I made a choice not to go to seminary. Now, I'm not sure exactly why, if I were to be honest with you. Some of it was fear, I'm sure. And I have rationalized over the years what might have been behind that, but I don't really know. All I knew is I made a conscious, intellectual decision not to go. So, this comes the question. Did I miss my calling? Did I not do something I was supposed to do? Did God have a plan for me and I changed my mind to not follow God's plan? It felt like everything was lined up, but I made a conscious human choice not to go. And I have to admit, it was more mental than it was heartfelt. Maybe if I'd gone into prayer more, I might have made a different decision. I don't know. But I chose not to go. You know, in everyday life, we make lots of decisions. I heard once that there was over 300 decisions we make a day. I think I make that many decisions deciding what to have for lunch. But I heard somewhere that we make over 300 decisions a day, and 10% of them can be life-changing. Now, that's a lot of potential life changes in a single day. But you know, if you think about it, they could be. Whether you cross the street or not, you might have gotten hit by a car, okay? Whether I decided not to go to Unity Village or if I decided to go. And sometimes the decisions are yes and no, and that's simple. The thing is, if we have plans, let's say I thought that I had a plan to become a minister, and that was my calling, then I would have had an attachment to that choice. I think my calling, was it a calling? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think God has a plan for me, remember? Okay? So I don't think I was going against God. I just made a decision that was right for me to make at the time. So the thing is sometimes things come up unexpected in our choice making. And things maybe become a challenge, and we say, that's a test for me to get through so I can get to my goal. Or if things go well, we can say, it's a sign I'm supposed to do this. I don't put a lot of weight into those things in my life. I look at things and I say, that's how it is. I go into prayer. What does it mean to me? And I don't know what it means generally, even when I go into prayer. I don't know until afterwards. I have learned in my time that I don't learn about the lessons while I'm going through the lesson. I learn about the lesson after I've gone through it and I look back on what I did about it. So it's like, it's not too late, you know, but what I have learned is that I do go within and I do communicate with God frequently. In fact, I do it all the time. One of the things about practicing for seminary is I got in touch with that part. I have a connection with my sense of spirit, with my source, that is almost always with me. And if something comes up, I can look at something and say, that resonates or it doesn't resonate with that. So I have what I call kind of my spiritual autopilot, all right? Because it helps me know what works for me emotionally and spiritually and mentally and in my life as compared to something that doesn't. I once heard that an airplane flying from, jet nowadays, flying from LA to Hawaii is off course 90% of the time. 90%. How do they find this little island in the middle of the ocean? Well, that's because as they fly, all right, and they're on autopilot, okay, all right, the wind blows them a little off course, and the autopilot brings them back. And the wind blows them off course again, autopilot brings them back. And the wind blows them off course again, autopilot brings them back. As long as they keep following that autopilot, they'll end up here in Hawaii in the middle of the ocean. For me, I believe that my spiritual autopilot is much like that. I know what I'm going through as I go through my day, all right? And I know that as long as I'm paying attention to what's going on inside of me, I make pretty good decisions, all right? So that's what keeps me pretty much centered. But then something happens, okay? I get angry. I get self-indulgent. I get sad. I get angry. I get something happens that causes me to lose connection, to lose that ability to touch that part of me. And I have to take myself off of autopilot and give myself a hands-on control so that I can then get back on course. For me, I have found that that's possible to do with the 12-step programs or with the Q process or some other spiritual program that gets me to refocus again. Because sometimes my autopilot just isn't enough. Back to my theme. Why am I here? Am I here to follow God's path? Or am I here to follow my path with God's guidance? Am I here to make choices? Okay. J.R. Rim said, it's not about making the right choice. It's about making a choice and then making it right. Now, I've heard this said in different ways, okay? But this is the way it was originally said. And I thought about that, about the choice I made. I made a choice, and I stayed true to that choice. I made a choice not to go to seminary, and I stayed true to that. In general, I haven't looked back, but I have to admit, I thought about what would it have been like if I had become that minister. What would I be doing? But in general, I haven't looked back because of the three things I learned at Lee's Summit. Does God have a plan for me? I don't know. What I do know is that when I take the time to go within, when I do listen to my spiritual autopilot, I make better choices. You know, it's not that I have God's plan or not that I have my plan, but because I work hand in hand with God, we have a plan that we work out together in partnership. That's what works for me. So the question comes up, do you have a plan? Only you and God know that for you. Do you know when you stray off that plan? Do you know when you're not following your direction? And do you pay attention to when you know that? Well, I want to review just, for me, I know that when I'm on course or off course because of the three things I learned. And they are, there we go. 1, we are in the right place at the right time. No matter where we are, we're in the right place at the right time. 2, wherever we are, we're doing God's work. It doesn't matter where we are, when we are, doesn't matter, ordination doesn't matter. We are doing God's work. And 3, the answer is never final. It's not. You know, what I have discovered is that if the answer is no, it usually means not now. It surely did when I was at Lee's Summit. Or maybe it means take another look and look at the question you're asking. It's often not about the answer, but it's often about the question that you're bringing forth looking for the answer. So for me, I do know why I am here. It took me a while to get to this point, okay? Why am I here? I am here because I have come to know that we're all ministers, that we're all here to help each other. I know that we each have our own combination of spiritual and physical and emotional and psychological gifts that we can be of service to each other. I know that sometimes we get blown a little off course, but we're here to help each other get back on course, gently and lovingly. Not that any of us can fix the other person, but we can help that person find that strength within themselves to help themselves. So why am I here? I'm here to be with the right people. That's you. And I'm here to be at the right time. And that's now. And I'm here because I know that together we can join to do God's work. Thank you. So we will take some time, kind of go within, and then we'll get in touch with that sense of what is our personal spirit of God, our sense. If you would, put your hands over your heart, feel it beating, feel that lifeblood within you. Feel the wind blowing across your cheek, maybe the smell of the flowers. Feel your sense of peace. Know how blessed and lucky we are to live in this wonderful place, a place of peace, a place of beauty, a place of healing. Know that our individual truth comes to us when we're ready. We just need to ask. Know that in this time, we can be the best we can be. That there's no greater gift that we can give than to give the best of who we are. We are at peace. We know the choices we make are the right choices. And when we find divine guidance to help make those choices, we know that all is right with us and the world. We are divinely guided. We are at peace. And now we come to God in the silence.